You're listening to Shift Everything, a podcast by West 40, where we challenge the status quo in education. I'm your host, Chris Coffey. Well, welcome back to another episode of Shift Everything. Today we're talking about skilled trades. We're going to talk to an instructor, a faculty member at Triton College, Antigone Sharris, who can share why it's so important to introduce young adults to the trades and just explain how they're in demand right now. And Antigone, you have a lot of experience in recent years seeing the need for trades. What are you seeing right now as far as the biggest needs? What industry needs skilled tradespeople the most?
When it comes to the field, every industry is looking for talent. The common core competencies that they're after in hiring a person are, can they read a ruler, inches and millimeters, not centimeters, inches and millimeters. That's a common issue right there. Basic fractions, basically 5th, 6th grade math, comprehension, as well as the ability to just think. Troubleshooting, ability to not have to look at you and ask you every 5 minutes, is this okay? Is this okay? It's a common issue that industry complains about. Showing up on time is mission critical. Passing the drug test is mission critical. There's a lot of basic things that people don't appreciate. And that's actually for any job, not just trades. And the definition of what trades means is another complete misunderstanding. People think, oh, trades is intended for people who aren't college material or people who aren't doing well at much, whatever it is. I've heard so many different things about what trades means, and all of it's wrong. Trades is everything. If you're going to be an accountant, that's a trade. If you're going to go into journalism, that's a trade. If you're going to go into our world, engineering, that's a trade. The skills that you need to have in a lot of our pathways, especially the engineering pathways, are the ones I just mentioned. Can you read a ruler? Can you look at drawings? Can you do basic math? They don't need to be calculus level. They don't need to be having done 4 years of math and 4 years of physics. None of that stuff. It actually is the basics, because most companies are not looking for you to invent something. That's for people who are seasoned, veterans who are doing that. They're looking for someone to work with existing products, existing designs, like what the chairs you and I are sitting at, where they need people to understand welding. They need people to understand electricity. They're not looking to hire somebody just with an electrical engineering degree, because that's meaningless. They want someone who actually understands how to wire something up. And that's where it's important to learn how to do these things as early on in your life as possible. The different high schools, those that have retained their tech programs, more power to you. That's kudos. The Ridgewood high schools, where they've combined their geometry class with their wood shop class, their construction class. That's what we need, because those kids actually understand the math, the necessary skills in that side in order to be able to build something so it doesn't fall down.
There's been such an emphasis on getting kids interested and ready for traditional four-year colleges and universities. Does that mean that's had a negative impact on kids that, hey, you know what, I don't necessarily want to go that way? Could you just talk about that, what you've seen as an educator in recent years?
100%. Those different schools out there that have taken out, I'll use the word neutered themselves from being tech-based to college prep. My own high school did it to us. I wasn't there, thankfully, when it happened, but later on. It is sad to see that they're like, oh, we're going to just prep you for college. And to me, that's a very low bar. Because when I went through school and I did my required shop classes, my required drafting classes, I even did commercial art, all of that is what helped me become a better engineer, a better designer, a better builder, because I understood how to do it. Because the act of physically building things teaches you how to design better. And that's what we're missing. They're not having that foundation anymore. So they're getting into college where they're taking a traditional pathway of an engineering degree, but they're missing the foundation of how engineering used to be taught. Because it made sense that you go to university to do the theoretical, But that meant you took the practical already. And that's completely being cut out of the equation these days. Grade schools have killed their shop classes, their home ec classes. We have people basically graduating high school that only know how to answer questions out of a textbook. So they're not really field worthy for much of anything. So they are, I'll go to college and figure it out. Well, that's expensive. These are things that we need to start early with, not later. So, and that's been the biggest issue, is this push for going to college versus the push for being life ready. This is the way I'm going to phrase it. Is just missing. There's a huge disconnect, and I'm getting them as students. Like, I mentor a high school robotics team in FIRST Robotics, and those kids are getting it because they're in competition. They have to build a robot. We only have 6 weeks to do it. And all of that is making them better people. They're better prepared, not just for college, but for life. And that's what we really want. We're trying to help people be better prepared for all of it. And getting into trades is just a piece of it.
And could they get a good head start on making a good income at a younger age?
100%. My senior year, with what I learned, I was in what was called Industrial Cooperative Education Program. I was making more money than anybody else, and I was working in a shop. I worked for Janet Kaiser's company, Century Metal, back in the day, and that's where I basically was punching metal, forming, cutting, all of those things as a senior in high school, and that's where I got to see, yes, I actually enjoy this. I like the building part. I also did inspection, so I understood the measuring, calipers, the importance of numbers in application, not just as a textbook conversation. And then I moved on and got my degree. The neat part is I chose to blend work with school. So by the time I graduated out of college, it took 7 years, but who cares? I had 5 years of field experience. I could command a higher wage than anybody who just went to school and just did their 4 years.
Talk to me about the pathway for a young adult to enter a nice-paying trade. They have an interest of something in high school, then they think, hey, you know what, I might want to go to a college to learn more. What happens once they get to a college like Triton College?
The neat part is I recommend that they start thinking about what they like as early as possible and then try to do it even as volunteer work. For example, if they want to be a teacher, volunteer as a tutor. See if you have the temperament for it. If they like the idea of being in finance or accounting, join a club when you're in school, of course. That's one way. And then another way is then, be the finance officer for that club. Can you handle the numbers there? Those things like that. For us in trades, it's all trades to me. You have to be honest, everything is a trade. No one goes to school for school. We're all going for a purpose of a career pathway, and that's what a trade is. What's your trade? What do you do for a living? It's all trades. Whether it's accounting, whether it's journalism, whether it's welding, doesn't matter. What's cool is the earlier you start, the better, and that there's enough data out there that proves the point. Because you don't want to just graduate school and then say, okay, I'm ready. And they're like, well, what's your experience? I got my degree. Well, guess what? Doesn't count. You need to have 3 to 4 years of experience. Well, how do I, that there's many articles on the topic. How do you fight that? You have experience but no degree, or you have a degree but no experience. Well, you do it. You got to blend the two. It's a yin-yang relationship between the two. And that's what we encourage. That's what I did personally, and that's what I encourage all of our students to do. While you're in school, start doing it. If you want to try to get into career coursework, I recommend you start at your local community college, wherever it is. I'm at Triton, but that's only for this district. If you're out in Moraine Valley, if you're over by COD, if you're up by Harper, Morton College, all of the different community colleges have trades programs. Take full advantage of starting there and get a taste of these things and start working.
Do some of the companies that need to hire, do they seek out potential employees from places like Triton College?
100%. They will go to all the community colleges. And once they have a school that they like we've established our relationship years ago, they come back all the time. Why? Because we're picky. We make sure our students know what they need to know and are field worthy, not simply, oh, you took a class, checkbox. No. Our students run them through the numbers. We run them through making sure they understand that welding is not just about, welding's one example because that's one of the classes I teach. Welding is not just about welding. It's about the whole thing. You're becoming a fabricator. Most of the companies that want to hire fabricators and they say, oh, we're hiring a welder, they want them to know how to measure. They want them to understand how to interpret blueprints. They need them to understand process sheets. We cover everything with them so that way they're fully knowledgeable walking the door. They might not be, for example, as an individual, they may have gotten everything and they as an individual might not be like totally perfect on particular weld process. But guess what? That's where the company comes in. They'd rather have someone who knows everything else. And okay, go practice, because that's all that takes is practice. Go practice, you're fine. But if the person can't read a blueprint, person can't measure, can't do basic math, they can't even hire them. Who cares if they can weld, if they can't do anything else? Because they're a liability. The product's not going to be built correctly. The chair you're sitting on won't stand on its own. Well, I know how to weld. What else do you know? You have to know much more. And that's what the company's like. And that's why they come to the schools, because they're looking to hire a well-rounded individual who can do more than simply stand there. If all they want to do is weld, literally just the act of welding, next door we're teaching robotic welding. We'll have a robot to do that for you. No problem.
Speaking of robots, how will robotics and AI impact the trades moving forward?
There's a lot of opportunity with robotics where you can have essentially the dog robot. We've probably seen them, running around at the different shows. Basically as transport systems. The AI is that they need to know where they need to go so they're not too dummy in how they transport things from one point to another, meaning they're not going to run you over if you're standing in front of them. So the AI component is a big piece of what we're using. People are like, oh, it's going to replace my job. I'm like, it'll only replace your job if you let it. You have to know how to use it. It's another tool like everything else. CAD. Oh, they're going to replace all these drafting jobs. Well, get off your board and learn how to use the CAD. Okay? So you got to get engaged with robotic welding. That's another one. If it's a repetitious weld that is constant and there's nothing unique about it, that maybe you have like 10 people doing, I guarantee you that company, and if you're sitting there being one of them, that company is already working on how to replace you with a robotic welder. So you need to be able to do more than just literally stand there and weld, because that's a robot. I had one of the facilities I work with, I'll try not to mention company names, but one of the facilities I work with, pre-COVID, okay, I was there in their shops, 2018, all these welding booths with all these welders. Today, replaced with robotic welding.
What does that tell you?
That tells me that if it's a repetitious job, it's going to be gone. So you have to be more than simply a quote-unquote welder. You have to be a multi-tool. And that's somebody who can do more than just stand there and expect somebody else to do all the work for you while all you do is weld. It's a big change. Even the unions, they're looking at people that if you don't pass that written test, which includes the math, the kind of math I just talked about, measuring, reasoning, word problems that are like, okay, I've got 72 inches of material, I need to turn it into this, what can I really build out of this much material? Those kind of questions, not simply 1 + 1 = 2 type questions. They're questions that are asking you to think. And if you're someone that is looking to just get a good paying job but otherwise be an autopilot, you got to change your thought process. That's not life, not today and not in the future. And that's what AI and robotics are about. They are replacing those types of roles.
Could you talk a little bit about just the enjoyment you can get out of being skilled at a particular trade or trades? You work with your hands, you see immediate results, you know that you're in demand. That's got to add up.
Oh, God, yes. It's wonderful. I've had students who, what they've learned in classroom, they are in their garages, making whatever they want to make. And what's really cool, like one of my guys, he actually texted me one day. He's like, oh, my God, Ms. Sharris, I actually got hired for a job, for custom work. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, yeah, I was in my garage welding something up, and they saw me, and they came up to me and said, hey, you know how to weld. Can you make something that looks like this? Da, 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 da. Boom. And custom work is lots of money. Because if they don't know how to make it, they'll be like, here's my wallet. It is wonderful. Like one of my students, he made a chair out of chains. It might be next door, to be honest. It's not here. And I've got several students, as you could see, they made shelving, they made different types of tables, entertainment systems. And it's all, they can use it as an example of what products they can make. I show students on Etsy, look at all these little businesses out there. And they know how much the equipment costs. We go through that as part of the curriculum. And they have to understand the cost of the equipment, not simply the cost of their time making something. And they know the cost of materials. So, yeah, they can start their own business. And it's wonderful because about a third of them do, because of how in demand those skills are and how few people understand how to do things themselves. They're happy to pay. Hey, I'll pay you. You make it for me. No problem.
And we'll close our conversation by kind of talking about the relationship that West 40 has with Triton College. You have trained some of our students to become welders.
Yes. Last spring, we had a boot camp. Just it seems like a long time ago, but it's not. It was this year. And the participants were learning how to weld, and they even went and interviewed at a company, one of our partner companies, and were tested for their welding skills. And I think one of them was offered an opportunity out of that. It was a small group of students that we worked with. So, and I'm hoping that they've taken the skills they've learned and they're applying it somewhere.
That's got to be great for you as an instructor to see differences being made.
Yes, and that's the key, because if we can help you find something you enjoy doing, and if that happens to be welding, or it could be electrical, like we do everything across the board, CAD, design, electricity, if somebody wants to be an electrician. If you want to do robotics, we have that, PLCs, programmable logic controls, all of that. And if that's what you find your affinity for, and you're like, oh, where do I take it? Oh, we can help you with that. That's the easy part, because companies come after our students all the time.
Well, Triton College faculty member Antigone Sharris, thank you so much for joining us on Shift Everything to talk about skilled trades. Thanks for listening to Shift Everything. We want to hear your thoughts and bold ideas and share your educational accomplishments. To join the conversation, email us at shifteverything@west40.org.